What's up, everyone? All right, so in this episode, I'm gonna break down for you how to day trade, breaking news, and I had a perfect example of it today. A stock pops up, I'm gonna show you the headline, the live trading recording, the initial market response, me jumping in, the first pullback, riding that momentum, and taking profit on the way up. 3-minute long trade, over $1,500 of profit. Now, this is a stock that has ended up coming almost all the way back down. It retraced the entire move. And that's not uncommon with breaking news headlines. Sometimes the initial market response is really dramatic, and then things kind of settle down as investors and traders kind of really circulate and better understand the news. That's why it's always important when you're trading these that number one, you understand how much you're risking on the trade. On this trade, I was risking $700. My profit target, $1,000 to $1,500. I ended up getting that, which means I was risking $700 to make $1,500. That's a 2-to-1 profit to loss ratio, which means if I'm right only 33% of the time trading that setup, I break even. So if I'm right 50% of the time or 60% of the time or 70% of the time, I'm making a lot of money. In fact, you'll see today that I'm up over $11,000 on all of my trades across the board. Today was a really solid day in the market. Now, as you're watching this episode, you might have a couple of questions about risk management, about stock selection, scanners, flow, breaking news. So if I don't answer all of them in this episode, what I want you to do is click the link right in the description to register to my next live webinar. I think that will help get some of those questions answered. And of course, you can leave questions right down there below in the comments. And if you enjoy these videos, I hope you are already subscribed to the channel, but if not, hit that subscribe button. All right, so let's get into it. Let's start talking about how to day trade, breaking news. All right, you guys, so this is kind of funny because literally yesterday I was telling myself I should make an episode, a video on how to day trade breaking news. And I was like, man, it's been kind of a while since I had a really good breaking news headline that I traded. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just have to kind of, stay on the lookout for one. And maybe if it comes up, hopefully I'll be recording and I'll trade it and everything else. Boom, today, breaking news on NBEV, and I traded it. Now, I'll preface this by saying that basically every day I am trading breaking news because when I trade a stock that's on this gap scanner here, this stock DARE, for instance, or this stock ADAP. This stock ADAP is right here. It's our second leading gapper, up 45% this morning with 275% gain as of right now. It had breaking news, but I wouldn't really consider this to be trading breaking news because the news was out hours beforehand. I was more jumping on the momentum once the market opened. Breaking news, I would consider to be more like this trade on NBEV, where the stock was doing nothing, absolutely nothing, and then all of a sudden is doing something incredible, right? That is more typical of breaking news, and so this is what I've got a really good example of today. So NBEV is the stock. Let's go back. Let's see. I'm going to pull this up on my chat room feed here so I can show you guys the news as it was posted in the room. All right, so here we go. All right, so this is our chat room software. And News Desk is this proprietary news feed that we have that APIs, so the news is posted right into the chat room. So News Desk posts NBEV, that's the stock symbol. Kendall Jenner's diet includes new age beverage brands. She told E! News that she drinks this to start her day every morning. And that was in a tweet. NBEV was a tweet from the company. All right, so we've got a tweet from the company that Kendall Jenner, I don't know if it sounds like a little bit of an informal celebrity, kind of promotion there, or maybe it's formal, I don't know. But in any case, paid, unpaid, I don't know. All I know is that when I pulled it up, the stock was already hitting $1.96. So I'm gonna bring this down to the 10-second chart because this is such a fast moving trade that I ended up taking. All right, so I pulled it up and it was right around here. It had, actually it was right around here. And let me pull up my live trading recording for you as well. Let's see, and I will break this down. Okay. So hold up, let me just get this. All right, so there we go. Okay. All right, so, and we'll pull this up right here, NBEV. Currently, it's back at $1.8788. So it's kind of like, one of the things I say with trading a lot is, we don't want to marry these stocks, and you don't want to get emotionally attached because they will let you down. These are stocks that you want to be actively trading. You want to get in, get your profit, and get out. Sometimes these stocks will continue higher, like ADAP. And of course you think, oh man, I should have stuck with it longer. But more often than not, they do this. And so one of the things we also say as a trader is you don't go broke taking profit. You take money off the table. And every single day when you're trading, you are doing one of two things. You are either giving back money to the market or you are walking away with profit and potentially leaving a little bit of money on the table. Look at this. This just dropped from, what was that, $5 to, $4.68. I would rather walk away knowing that I did a great job. Maybe I'm leaving a little money on the table, but I feel better walking away with profit than, let's say, giving back half my gains because I overtrade the market. So on NBEV, I think I sold it a little too soon. I left a little money on the table, and you'll see this here. All right, so let's go back. So we've got the news headline right here, Kendall Jenner, blah, blah, blah. All right, so I see that, I pull up the stock, and as soon as I pulled it up and saw that it was already up this much, I started pressing the buy button. So I bought in 1,000 share increments, 97, 98, 99, 99. Now, the 1,000 share increment, you could just as easily change this to anything else. Under your share size settings, I have my custom orders here for buy 1,000 shares. It's probably worth changing this. I did a small account challenge, and as I was preparing for that, I put myself into boot camp where I could only trade with 2,000 shares, but I haven't changed it since then. So I don't know. Whatever. I've been on a good hot streak. Kind of don't want to change what's been working. In TD Ameritrade, I would have typed in NBEV just like this, and then I'd be able to either click this for 1,000 shares or 500, and then click the buy market button. All right, that's the easiest way to jump in here. Okay, so NBEV, it's surging up, and I go ahead and jump in it. So I'm now in it right now, and as you can see, I actually added at $2.06. So I was kind of adding as it's moving higher. And now it's at 218, up 28%. And it's got 1.9 million shares of volume, almost 2 million shares. And it's not a stock that I trade a lot. You can see NBEV hitting the scanners here. It's got 71 million share float. Now the float is the number of shares available to trade. And if you're not super familiar with that, you can watch a couple of my other videos or click down below. There's a link to register to one of my workshops where I'll teach you about float and how I qualify a stock for having the potential to have a home run, a home run trade. NBEV, I was a little skeptical. I know it's a stock that's sometimes a little bit more thickly traded. So up here, when it starts to kind of run into a little resistance at 218, 219, I kind of was like, oh, let's see what this does. So there's 223, and then it flushes down here 216, 15, 14, 13, and I was like, uh-oh. It even hit 211 there for a second. So I ended up taking some profit off the table. I thought that maybe this was going to come right back down to 2, and I better just walk away with some profit. So I took some profit off the table. It ends up holding this level of 211, bouncing back up, and on the 10-second chart here, it's actually forming a micro pullback just like it did right here. So the high is around 23. So over 23, we'll be making new highs. Note that it's just a strong volume. The time in sales, which is this here in green, is just showing so much strength. So, and then just like that, it's up to 29 by 34. So now I've got a little bit of FOMO because I'm thinking, man, I sold 5,000 shares at 213. If I'd held that to 233, I would have made an extra $1,200. At the same time, had it come right back down to 2, I could have been getting out break even for the whole trade or even potentially for a loss. And that's not acceptable. So on this trade, I left a little money on the table, but I'm walking away with profit. So it's squeezing up. I'm gonna, you can see this red LULD right here at 34. That tells us that if it hits that level and holds above that level, the stock will get halted on a circuit breaker. So LULD is right here. It has to stay, the bid price has to stay above this level for at least 15 seconds for the stock to get halted. Again, if you're not familiar with the circuit breaker halts or things like that, make sure you register to my webinar. It's really a day trading 101 where I break down risk management, stock selection, and chart patterns. So this pattern right here is a micro pullback, buying the first candle to make a new high. Now I was already in from down here, so I just held through the pullback. All right, so now we're at 34, and you can see I've got $1,294.99 of unrealized profit, open P&L, and I've already locked up 700 bucks. So right here, as it's starting to look like it's not gonna halt, I start to get a little nervous and think, you know what? I better take a little more off the table. The halt level has moved up. Halt levels are based on the stock moving 10% in the last 5 minutes. And so the average price of the last 5 minutes is always changing. As time moves forward, the average price is different. And so it's always 10% above the average price. Sorry, actually it's 20% in the case of this stock. So there you get a quick drop. I sold some at 30, and I'm feeling grateful that I did that. Now we're down at 17 or 19. And I'm gonna end up scaling out of this and taking my profit off the table and walking away with about $1,500, which isn't bad for 3 minutes of work. However, I will tell you that when you trade breaking news, the biggest challenge, and this kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You know, what comes first, the news or the stock moving? Now, obviously, the news comes first. The stock's not gonna move without the news, but if you're the first person to get breaking news, what do you do with it? Because you don't necessarily know if the market will interpret that news positively or negatively. And certainly something like a social media tweet related to, you know, a celebrity kind of sponsorship type of thing or whatever it is, you would typically think that would be received positively. But there are other headlines that you'll sometimes see, you know, FDA approval or patent result or something like that the market just doesn't really respond to. So rather than searching all day long for breaking news, which every minute of the day there's a news headline coming out, what I wait for is a stock to respond to it. And then I know that the market is interested. And so I waited for the stock to respond, and then I bought on the first pullback with a tight stop. All right, so when I was in here at 98 or 95, 96, 97, 98, my stop was at 89. So I was using about a 7-8 cent stop, risking about $700-800 for a total profit of $1,500. That's a 2-to-1 profit to loss ratio. I'll risk 100 to make 200. I'll risk 700 to make 1,500. That's my risk management philosophy. So on this one, it ended up working out really well. But there are certainly times where you'll see a stock that has breaking news that you might think is positive, and then it just drops really, really hard. And you're like, huh, that's weird. For some reason, investors thought it was negative, and then people panic and sell. Here, some traders thought it was positive, and people jumped in and kind of, it's this kind of group mentality where it's self-fulfilling prophecy. The market kind of starts to do based on the initial reaction, and then it just continues because that was sort of the initial reaction. It's a little surprising to me that this is now back at $1.84, up only 8%, but that may be because it's not an official partnership. It's not an official sponsorship. It was a tweet, and that was it, right? And that might not really materialize. I mean, who knows if that's going to turn into more sales for the company, or maybe it won't. So this one's back down. ADAP over here is up 257%. Again, a little bit of a different type of trade on ADAP, because of course the news was out much earlier in the day, and so traders and investors had a lot of time to react to it. But as the momentum starts to increase, you know, traders can start to get more and more aggressive, trying to capitalize on these opportunities, and that's where you can see some real volatility. The good news there is that with volatility comes opportunity. And so if you manage your risk, you keep really tight stops, and you jump in at low risk pullbacks, like let's say right here or right here, then what you're essentially doing is you're capping your downside risk and you're maximizing your upside potential. All right, you guys, so I hope you've enjoyed this. This was kind of a, just ended up being a perfect breaking news example. It didn't end up being my biggest breaking news winner of all time by any means. If it had squeezed up to 253 and 4 and kept going, then maybe it would have been, but it didn't do that. But doesn't mean there wasn't an opportunity to make some money. So as always, questions, comments, leave them right down below. If you want to learn more about my strategy, how I find these stocks and things like that, make sure you check out the link to register to my next webinar, which will be right down below in the description. All right, so again, I'll see you guys for the next episode, and questions, comments, leave them below. Hey, did you know every morning I go live to stream my pre-market watch list? Subscribe to the channel, press the alert button, and you'll get the notifications. And if you want to learn more about trading, check out the links in the description. And if you have questions, post them in the comments, because I personally respond to every comment posted on my channel.